Welcome back to the Owner Operator Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Gray. In this episode, I'm hosting Daniel Cronauer. Daniel owns several different businesses, one in the pressure washing space, one a Christmas light business, and he also owns gyms that he and his brother have built. So we dive into all three of these different businesses, specifically Christmas lights in the middle and power washing towards the end. Dan has built businesses to optimize for lifestyle, so you do not want to miss this one. Make sure to listen to the full episode. If you like these episodes, and if you're listening on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and also leave in the comments below if you have someone you would recommend or would like to hear on the podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to like and follow the podcast. And just like service businesses, 5-star reviews are super important in podcasting as well. So we would greatly appreciate if you would take 30 seconds right now and leave a 5-star review if you are enjoying the podcast. Finally, this episode is brought to you by Owner Ops. Owner Ops is an online hub specifically for people who are starting and growing service-based businesses in your own local market. Visit Owner Ops to learn more, ownrops.com. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. First off, Dan, welcome to the podcast.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I was just saying, we were talking, pre-game here. If there's a video feed, here's our temporary, our spare bedroom for our guest. And it's also my office space, but I've been debating on getting a new, fancier computer chair. And part of me likes to make it not my last office didn't even have heat. I mean, legitimately, because my thought process was get there and just get to work. Be there for the shortest amount of time and get the most amount of work done. So I just said was be there for 1 hour and get 12 hours worth of work done. Where there are some people who go to the office for 12 hours and they get 1 hour of work done. So what do I need this big fancy office for when everything's online and you could be from anywhere doing phone calls as far as what our office stuff does. Now we do have a shop and where our technicians would meet, and that office is still shitty. That's my old office, but once again, my customers aren't coming to the office, so there's no I actually worked for a guy who was investing all this money into an office that he rented. I'm like, what are you doing? That does not, if it doesn't produce income, if it doesn't put money in your pocket, then we need to reevaluate the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like this age-old thing where people think that they have to invest in an office, and it's just I'm right there with you. I was talking with Julius, the other pressure washing guy, the other day, and we were on the phone, and I just can't sit at my desk for so long. So I'm an early morning guy. Yep. I get up, I pour my cup of coffee or two, and knock out all my office work, and then I'm just out in the field. I'm I love driving around, looking for deals, meeting with customers, doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. So why would you waste all this money on an office?
That's right.
It makes no sense. You should have it where now I will say for me, I need a space, my mental environment. I can't do work with other people around me. I'm a big Apple AirPod guy. I'll put those in and go to Zen Town. But I need a space, but my space does not have to be fancy or I don't need marble floors, for an office. You just need, I have a $150 Amazon desk and, a computer someone recommended to me. But that's it. I mean, the most, that's the office right there. That's all the lifestyle goal. I spent some time in Florida, last month, and, answered calls, brought a laptop with me, and that was my office for, a couple days in Florida. I think that should be the goal. But yeah, the old school mentality of dumping money into an office just makes no sense now.
Dude, I love it, man. The last probably 8 to 10 weeks, I've been really focusing on working out too in the mornings, but I go to the gym at 9 and then I'm there till 11 or 12 because I'm just working in the middle of my sets. I'll go take a lap on the track.
Whoa. I know that feeling, and I hate that feeling. Don't get me
really.
I'm not. For everyone listening to this, I'm not in that group. Okay.
That's awesome.
Because I understand it. And that is the problem with going at 11 or 9 or whatever, you're entering the workday time where people can now start stealing from your zen. Like the workout for me is very sacred. I do own a gym for those who don't know that as well, but so I don't want anyone to bother me. This is I build a gym so I can have a workout and like work through my problems of my day. And when someone's calling, interrupting them, I don't like it. No. So yes, I agree with you. You can go for a walk and do that, but at the same time, like let's say you were on okay, right here. If I just get up, leave this podcast and go do a set of push-ups, like it wouldn't be a good podcast, right? The same thing I believe for the workout, like keep that sacred, do not disturb it if you can. And then when you're out of the workout, so you already did your 2 hours of office work. Why are you answering phone calls at 11? Now it's a work hour time, or people might be calling you for deals. You have to take those calls. That's part of, the business that people don't understand. So I get it totally. I was bust your chops a little bit, but you understand.
Oh, yeah. No, that's totally fine. And everybody's entitled to their own opinion on this, right? I have tested that, like leaving my phone turned off inside the locker, and I'm in and out in like 45 to 55 minutes at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So I think the reason I brought that up was to talk about, because Julius and I were talking about this the other day. I'm so just like I got to be doing stuff.
Yeah, me too.
But when I'm like out doing stuff, I'm way more productive. So I'm just answering phones, like thinking of things while I'm working out. Okay, this person needs to be, I need to follow up with him. So like, boom, hit a quick text message.
Yeah.
Email.
If you're the one sending out messages while you're working out, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
If people are blowing your phone up while you're working out, that's a little different story. That's where it's like they're interrupting your time. If you're like, I do like probably most of my tweeting at the gym. Like okay, I have a 2-minute rest between my set. I'm like, perfect. I just thought of something, like open the phone up, like I'm resting anyway. I will fully support that. I understand that makes more sense to me. But versus like someone calling in the middle of a workout and just ruining it,
Now we're on the same page, because I do throw on do not disturb. So
then you're good.
Like when I'm walking a lap in between sets, it's like, who do I need to be following up with? Because like that, for me, physical activity, we can kind of turn this back to snowboarding.
Wherever you want. I don't care. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, your show.
Whatever outdoor activity it is, it's like if I'm out in the field doing this, like my brain just fires so much faster and better.
Yeah. There was something I was thinking about, like yesterday. Like I wasn't in a good flow state, and like, man, when you're in flow state, like, and the same thing was for snowboarding. Like there was days where like we talked about this prior to your recording. I had 2 really good friends in college who were both like, we were all kind of on the same level of snowboarding, and it was amazing because we all just pushed to become better every single day. And there was just like one day when you could just tell, like the one guy, Dustin, had it, or the one guy, Dugan, had it, or I had it. Like you just had you're in flow state, and like your tricks were just better, your riding was smoother, and like it's crazy. Like I always wondered like how the pros, like the day, they're all good, they're all amazing, but the day someone wins a competition is because they were just in that state where they're just like stomping moves and like just hitting things in transition perfectly. And kind of what you're talking about is being that flow state when you're out like going. And I love that. Yeah, just as much as anybody. And like you could feel the difference. Like yesterday, I was not a flow state day for me. It's kind of late, and I actually said to my friend yesterday, I said, yo, I need to call you on Sunday night. I need to give you a list of the stuff I'm going to like accomplish this week. And that's actually almost advice from a marriage counselor I went to with my wife years ago. She's like, on Sunday night, he's like, you have your business meeting. Like you guys look at your week in advance, say like, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's what this is going on. Here's this responsibility. And it just sets that week up for success. And I've kind of, the winter time for me is a little different because I don't have as much going on with day-to-day stuff or technicians or guys or like, business wise. But some of my businesses are so automated that like I almost forget. Like I the 2 gyms I own, I just took a check yesterday. I wrote a check to myself, and like I wrote a $2,400 check that the gym just pays me for just being there, right? And I would tell myself I didn't have a good day yesterday. Like it was more money than people would make in 2 weeks. And like, I didn't have a flow state day. I just wasn't firing how I like to be firing. And that is like honestly one of the hurdles I have is where I'm at in business is like, do I do really good for probably 90% of people? But if I try to look at myself in that top 10%, I'm like, it was a bad day. Or it was okay. It was all right.
Well, so I've seen you talk about this on X a lot. Like you're optimizing for lifestyle
Totally.
with your businesses.
Yep.
Can you take us back to well, first off, can you tell our listeners just like what businesses you own for those that
Yeah.
don't know?
So I started I was supposed to be a gym teacher. I didn't make it, sadly. And once again, designing for lifestyle. Like I legitimately, why was I going to be a gym teacher? So I could have the summers off, hang out. Gym teaching life is probably the best teaching life you could ask for. Yeah, I love playing dodgeball or like any type of I'm a huge play guy, right? If I'm not working on something, I'm playing. But yeah, it didn't work out. So I started a roof cleaning business, and then we got more into as fast as I got into roofs, I started getting adding exteriors, and then adding concrete, and then started working to commercial wise and like things like that. So I've had the roof cleaning business for about 12 years now. I did sell a portion of it before I built the gym. I knew it'd be tough to like run the residential and build a gym at the same time. So I had sold the residential and the Christmas lights together, and to one of my employees. He kind of messed it up, which worked out really well for me because as I was finishing the gym, like me and my brother physically built the gym. Like that was our way of like saving 300 grand was by building the gym ourselves and not having our labor force essentially. And the gym got finished up, and within like 2 weeks, I had a manager there running the gym. Like I knew like no way I was managing the gym. Like there's just absolutely not. So we had a person running it, and he gave me some free time back. So I ended up getting the power washing business. Someone called me like, "Hey, you need to take the power washing business back," which I did, and it was great because I was able to like now have more time to focus back on power washing. Like kind of like how we were saying, stealing time from the gym. The gym idea was stealing time from my power washing business. I wasn't able to focus 100% on growing the power washing business because I was thinking about how the gym was going to run, the systems of the gym, what style of gym we're going to do. Is there a pool? No, it's not. Pools are way expensive. But my point is like all those things had to be answered. So I got the power washing business back, and not that I had like many retirements, but I was making like let's say 100 grand a year. I had a manager, I had 2 techs, and they were able to just do everything that they had to do. The phone would ring, they would get the estimate, they would do the estimate. The manager would schedule the job, the 2 techs would do the work. Check would go to the bank from the assistant, and like I was out, and like I had nothing. I could make 100 grand and not work like at all. But like as lifestyle creeps in, I have 2 kids now. Like 200 grand goes real fast. Like you could spend that in, I could probably spend that in about 4 months, or if less than that, depending on what we're doing. So I then got into commercial space, and then we started doing more like gas stations and condenser coil cleaning and like whatever commercial. We have some big water tanks that I was working for, like the public utility that we did, stuff like that. But I added on Christmas lights because I needed something for my guys to do. I'm in Pennsylvania. We do have winter. Like you can't really power wash when it's too cold. So the Christmas lights business is its own separate LLC, but it's tied into like power washing. It's kind of like a division of it because there's some guys who will cross over to both. And yeah, Kringle Lights, the lights business has been unbelievable. I mean, that literally added like a second income for us, like that most people like would take as like a part-time joke. I think this year I probably did about 90 grand. So I personally would put 90 grand in my pocket from October 1st until January 15th. Like we have a little bit of break in between during Christmas when we're not putting lights up and they're just hanging out. But from install to takedown, that's our time frame there.
Can you break down that business model for us, just like high level?
Christmas lights? Oh yeah. So Christmas lights, Joe Biden economy, nothing with politics, but it was a down year for sure. We ended up growing still because we added some stuff. But as far as we typically add new customers every season. So People move into a new house, like you said, you just did. So I would, give you a flyer. You would call us up and say, hey, I want some Christmas lights. Our presentation is this. They are your lights. We're taking care of them for you. Like if you had left a boat at a marina, which once again, I use an example, just like a boat at a marina. I'm using expensive things. People think boat, they think expensive. Marina, they think expensive. Our lights are expensive. Like these are a luxury service. We don't want people calling who just kick my tires. Like I absolutely hate tire kickers, and maybe it's a skill that I have. I can't dunk a basketball, but I can pretty much pick up like when a person's going to buy from us or not. And when I get a person on the phone and their first question is like, oh, how much does it cost? Like, that's not my customer. Like they're just asking for price. They want the lowest price. I don't care. And I usually drag my feet with that estimate. I tend not to do it because the next phone call I get is like, hey, I need you to do my lights. Like that's the person I want. They're like, we've seen what you do. Our neighbors have it. Like those are the words I'm listening for. And like, we need it done. When can you do it? That's another like key phrase. When can you do it? So that's an estimate that I would prioritize and send out to them. So how it works for us is we never go to any sites. Everything's done online, as we were talking about with mobile offices. So the estimate would come in. I'd pull it up. I use Microsoft Paint or whatever Microsoft Art program, basic program they have on a computer. I'd mark it up. I send it back to the customer with our estimate. Hey, here's like the yellow line. This is going to be X. Here's the yellow and orange line. It's going to be X plus Y. Here's the landscaping that's designated purple. So if you want everything, it's X, Y, and Z. You pick, tell us what you want, and then we'll get it scheduled. As far as getting it scheduled, they'll do. I usually ask them, like, once again, I'm setting them up to be a customer. I don't say like, when can you? Do you want it done? I don't ask them that. I say, what color light would you like? So now they're opening this estimate. They're thinking to themselves, okay, I see my house in warm white, or I see my house. I use a warm white, right? Like you want a cool white, you want a multicolor. What pattern do you want on your house? So when they get that estimate, they're visualizing their house already decorated. They reply back, yep, we'll get it scheduled. So actually, it's funny. I have some like local, like my some family members. It's kind of like some part-time labor there. Some kids from high school. They'll make these light strands up. This is like the if anyone who's listening to this is the most important part of this business is you have your low dollar hour labor make the lights ahead of time in the office. So then your high dollar hour labor, your install crew can just bang that job out. So instead of like putting the light bulbs in the light strands on the job site, you have it done in a warm basement or a warm office space or wherever you can ahead of time. So we'd have like, last year we'd like stacks of real. I'd be calling these kids out of high school, like, hey, you got to skip school today and come make some lights because we're that busy. Last year wasn't the case, but we definitely had a down year. We still did some new installs, but as far as the work, we do a new install. I would then tell the customer the following year is 25% off. Once again, I'm automatically assuming that they are coming back. They already spent this high dollar. This is our Amazon Prime model. You spent $130 for the year. You're then going to use Prime the rest of the year. So they bought their lights already. They spent the most amount they're going to spend. The next year's 25% off. So I'm like, hey, I reach back out to in September. We automated email. It's going to send out and say, when would you like your lights put up? We start putting up October 2nd. And they respond, October, November, whatever that is, at a 25%, reduced cost. So I think we had like 250, or I could look it up, but 280, something like that, customers that we did.
And that year one, if it's a new customer, they have to buy the lights.
Yeah, so the year one price is they're paying 100% of the cost of the service, so the service and the lights. And then year two, I tell them we discount the lights, we discount the service by 25%. So their cost is now 75% of whatever it was the first year. Now people do add, they do, which is fine, but we see that all the time. They're like, oh, I spent $2,000 year one. You're telling me, it's now $1,500. Like, let's add some more stuff so it's back to 2,000. Like people do that all the time. But for 50% of our customers, yeah, they're at that fixed rate, and then they stay at that rate until they say, okay, we're done. Which we then see like some customers probably do like 7 or 8 years. Yeah, like so every year they're like, okay, like they just know we're coming, go put them up. But there's a new thing in the light industry happening now. We see it with the popular brand is Govee. They're like an Amazon light. I wouldn't recommend them. I don't, but people know that name. There's some permanent lighting on out there. So we had some customers this year who said to us, "Hey, we don't want the seasonal light because we have to pay for you to put it up and down every year. Let's give us a permanent light." So we were actually debating whether we want to do that or not because the permanent light takes away from our seasonal customers. So by giving them a permanent light, we don't see that customer anymore. But if you look at like the profit on it, we might make 3 years of profit. By doing like if you have a seasonal profit and a permanent light profit, the seasonal would take us 3 years to make what the permanent made us. So we said to ourselves, it's probably still worth it to have both, like to offer both. Some people don't want the permanent lights. I think they look really good and you can't tell they're on there. So I recommend them to people who want them, but your permanent install might be like 12 grand and your seasonal install might be like 2 grand, if that makes sense, or 3 grand.
Why are there differences in price?
The permanent lighting is a completely different system. It's a like Wi-Fi. They're it's like why is there difference in price for in like Honda or like Lexus or like a Honda and a Mercedes? Like it's a completely different apples and oranges there. So that's why there's a different price.
Got it. So the permanent, like they just have to be built like way higher quality to withstand elements
exactly.
all year. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And different controller. The permanent can be color changing. Like that's why. Yeah.
And how do you price these services? Is it just per linear foot?
Yeah, we do linear foot. Yep. So if it's linear foot for permanent, it's $38 a foot. For a seasonal light package, it's $9 to $11 a foot.
Interesting. And so do you think people are going to start moving more to the permanent model?
That's exactly what's happening. So actually, this is a good like podcast lesson. He thinks he's our competitor, but he's really not. He's a guy who has done seasonal lights for maybe 15 years now. He did it before us. And so we came onto the scene and in true fashion, just like beat the piss out of this guy. Like he was so angry about like things. And like I'm the type of person, like I don't care about the competition. Like I'm like, dude, you do you, we're gonna do us, and like that's fine. So
and we're gonna win.
One of his, he wasn't giving great service to some of these customers either. Like he was putting their lights up like December 5th, and people want their lights up November 1st. Like they want them up, they can plug them in whenever they want. Like they want to show off to their neighbors their lights are already up. They don't want them up that late in December. So one of his customers called us this year in November and said like, hey, our guy said that he can't put the lights up until like December 5th. And when we asked him about doing permanent lighting, he said, no, like I'm not going to do permanent lighting. I would then lose you as a customer. And this actually cracks me up because I'm a huge capitalist and like the money tells you what to do. So in this case, he said no to doing permanent lighting, which he's fully capable of doing. And the customer called me up and said, hey, like the guy who we've been using for the past like 10 years won't do permanent lighting for us. Will you do it? So of course I'm like, hell yeah, we'll do it. So we get an $8,000 permanent job. We do the front of their house in permanent lighting. And that guy just lost out a customer who he can no longer service. He missed out on $8,000 and now can no longer service them for the next 10 years. So all because he didn't want to. And it's like, dude, in business, like you don't choose whether you want to or not. The customer chooses for you.
Absolutely. The customer chooses for you. So you're just putting a plan together to pivot more into permanent lighting at this point.
No, I don't want to plan. I don't want to do more permanent. I mean, what we have is a crew who could do permanent lighting. Yes. But would I like seasonal as well? Absolutely. I've been giving people the option. So what I said is we had probably about 80 new installs the year before, and then this past season we had about 20 just because of economy. The people were just not spending this discretionary money. Let's face it, having your Christmas lights done for you is very luxury niche. A certain amount of people can afford that and a certain amount of people cannot. And so it's a down year, but we still increase the revenue by adding more permanent lights. So the people who had money still had it, and they were switching to we had a bunch of permanent calls that were, like I said, our average job might be like 1,800 to 2,000 for seasonal. We're getting these 10, 12, $14,000 permanent light jobs. So that was able to fill up some schedule time for us and also be a big, chunk of change that we'd get for adding that service. So I don't want to pivot to it because it's really we haven't even talked about it. Power washing is my mainstay, but the hardest part for me is this time of year, like my most stressful time of year, because I don't know if I have $0 coming in next month or I have $1 million worth of stuff that I have to get done. So someone had said this, like, there's two problems you're always going to have in a service-based business. You're going to have not enough work or not enough crews, and you want to choose to have the not enough crews part. Not enough work is a horrible problem, but not enough crews is a bad problem. But so, I'm sitting here like, all right, it's February. What work are we going to have? Is our work going to start March 1st? We might just get a phone call or email. Hey, here's 700 gas stations, start them. And then you have to ramp up to getting enough crews and people to accomplish 700 gas stations. Or I don't know if I might not get that phone call at all. Which is super stressful. The beautiful part about Christmas lights is I already know I have 250 customers who are coming back next year. I mean, give or take 5%, and then we're going to add some new ones in there too. So you can really forecast with that recurring, revenue style. And honestly, I always tell people the best business ever is Christmas lights, because you could just predict on how well you're going to do. And I don't know any other service-based business that like reoccurs like that. If you're putting a pool in, the pool's in one time, you're done. If you're clearing the land, a lot, you're clearing land one time and it's done. And that's what makes service businesses so hard. Even in power washing, we wash a house, like, stays good for 3 years. So some of our people will get it washed every 2 or 3 years, which they're the best. But we do a roof, it stays clean for 5 years. It's hard to get that recurring customer. So you're constantly chasing your tail. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get into the gym business, was because you build it one time, you sign a person up, and they keep coming and paying. It's a much more relaxing business model. But as far as like cash flow and like growth, I have a friend who's a Naval Academy officer, and he said the problem with the gym is, like, you can't just pick up the phone and call and get more people. Like, he's right. Like, the gym caps out a certain number. That's how much profit you're going to do each year. And unless someone puts a housing development with 10,000 homes next to you, like, people aren't moving to you for the gym. Whereas in power washing, I'm able to pick up the phone and start cold calling or cold emailing these people in different areas. We expand our territory. Instead of being a half-hour radius, we're now an hour radius, and get a whole bunch more work. So I've come to learn there is like positive negatives in both sides of the industries.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with you. One of our first businesses was a co-working space, and we experienced the same exact thing. It's like, yeah, that business can, like, once we filled it, it was relatively easy to just keep going. Like, but there's just no more, like, you can't generate any more, and it's only going to pay you a couple $1,000 in profit a month, which is like, it still does. So it's fine, but I get bored easy. So it's like, there's no challenge there. And so that's why I jumped into the service game, is like, dude, when you start a service business, you can always pick up the phone. Like 2 days ago, I was designing, like mailers to go out to like our specific targeted area. That's fun to me. Whenever there's this like so many people that you could put a service out, even if it is a one-time. But I do agree with you. Like, I'm falling more in love with the service businesses that have recurring style revenue to them.
Yeah, because I mean, it's just, you could sleep better at night. There's no doubt about it. But you just said something that, like, a trigger is a bad word, but you said something that, like, hit me in the soul. And I'm not sure who's listening to this pod, as far as like your demographic, but if you have kids, it's a bad thing that you can always pick up the phone and call. So you said that you can always pick up the phone and call. You're right. Right. I could not take my kids snowboarding today, and I could sit here and pick up the phone and call. And we were in Disney a couple weeks ago, and like I had a phone call. I'm like, of course I want to take it because I love the game, just like you're talking about. Like you talking to someone about a big, multi-$100,000 project is really fun for us as business owners. It's my favorite part of the game. Increasing the sales is just something I'm chasing after. But when you have a wife and family and kids, like I can't do it. I don't have boundaries when it comes to like turning the phone off or like not answering it. Because I'm afraid I'm gonna miss a call that's like super important. But that's a definitely. I mean, maybe most people aren't at that phase, but it's a real thing. Being able to control like when you make those calls and when you don't make those calls, like or enjoying the moment, with your family member or spouse, girlfriend, whatever, and not being in business mode. I swear, I believe this that I had really bad like anxiety and panic in college, like no reason. I love people. I love crowds of people. I love like groups and like I'm all good with all that. And then all of a sudden I like just got hit by a bus. I couldn't go to the cafeteria. I couldn't eat food. Like I couldn't do anything because my anxiety and panic were so bad. And then I started a business and all of it went away. And I joked that like my brain now has something to stress or like not stress, but like think about or work on or grow 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Like I could literally be in hell and still thinking about my business, which is amazing. I think it does like cure a lot of anxiety. It gives me an anxiety that makes sense. Whereas before my panic and anxiety made no sense whatsoever. If that makes sense.
Oh, it makes complete sense. And I can resonate with that so much. I'm sitting here over here like, man, that's like punching me right in the gut too, because it's so true. Like my anxiety now is like, dude, I got 3 pieces of equipment. They're all multi-$100,000 pieces. It's like,
Yeah.
I got to go drum up work to make sure that those pieces are paid for every single day. Right.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it the hardest about being present with the wife and kids, because you could always be on.
Exactly.
So that's something I'm like really trying to work on right now. How are some ways that you do that?
I don't. I'm bad at it. That's what I said. I'm like I'm not a good
I am too, man.
Yeah, I'm not good being the president. And I think it takes a little bit for the spouse to learn, but they eventually do. They're like, hey, like the reason we're in Disney this week is because that guy over there is answering the phone like when we're in Disney. So you have a spouse that understand. I don't think kids understand, as well as a spouse does. Like a spouse kind of gets it that like you have to put the food on the table, or like um we might be on our honeymoon and I'm answering phone calls, and I mean, yeah, I could let them go. Yeah, this was a couple years ago. Now I have other people to answer the phone, and that's really the answer. Is like you start hiring more people to get some of your time back, and like they said, it's the first part of business. And I've gotten good at that. So I do have people who answer the phones for me. So I don't answer the phones anymore. But I call myself like account manager. There's certain accounts that I want to still go after. Right now I'm working on, the United States government, and if the United States government calls my phone, I'm going to answer that because I want to get this job. I want to get this contract. No, the answer is hire people to buy your time back. So I don't do any of the, labor portion myself, so it's a lot of time that I can spend with my family. Yesterday it was 11 a.m. I was in the hot tub with my son, right? Like most people are working. I have the freedom to do that, but then it could be I'm in Disney World or his birthday or whatever, and I'm answering the phone. Actually, his birthday, I'm answering the phone. So that's how I deal with it. They get me when they get me, and then they don't get me when they don't get me. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's how I do it.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah. I love those moments when it's like most people are working right now, and technically like my phone could ring and I might have to answer, but whenever you get to take your kid to the pool in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, like those things are awesome. And that's like one of the best things about owning your own business, in my opinion.
It's absolutely. And I think we're going to see, more and more of that, or like the ability. I know a guy who's a travel nurse. I'm like, man, that's a really good lifestyle. Like he can technically, he's almost a travel nurse, but also a temp nurse. So he just opens an app up and like turns it on, and like they'll fill his schedule immediately with work. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to wherever for the next 2 weeks. He just turns the app off and goes and travels. And he comes back and turns the app on. Like he's almost like a temp nurse. But he also is a travel nurse. I know he does both, but it sounds like a really good gig. If someone who you know, everyone's got to work, right? It's like what capacity, but being able to choose when you want to work. Same friend, the Naval Academy guy, he is getting out of the military and is looking to buy a business. I know it's a very popular thing right now. He's studying at Georgetown to be able to do it. And the first thing he said to me was, I want to work 50 hours a week, but I want to pick my 50. And I was like, wow, I guess I have it pretty good because that's exactly what I do. I mean, I might work 30 hours a week or 10 or 50, depending the week. And as you know, like it's business. So this time of year, I could choose to work 0 and take my kids snowboarding today, like I'm going to do. Or I could work for 10 hours trying to find new leads and new opportunities if I want to, which I do enjoy doing. So being able to control those hours is a huge perk of business. And how do we get there? It's something we talk about. I'm not sure if most people are in that owner operator phase. You're starting part time. Like don't stress yourself out. Same thing for employees. There's always someone out there who's looking for. Let me rewind. I always walk into a gas station at like, let's say 11 p.m. And I'm like, man, who the hell wants to be working that shift right now? But somebody is. Like someone at that gas station, like that's the shift that gets robbed. That's like all the problems happen, but they found a person. So I always tell myself, whenever someone uses like, oh, like there's no good workers out there, no one wants to hire like to work. I'm like, dude, there's someone working at the gas station at 11 p.m. like overnight. Like they have somebody. They found somebody. So if the gas station can hire someone from that 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, then I should have no trouble finding someone who to fit our needs and our time frame. And it's been the truth. And then I really do a good job of taking care of our employees. But part time, someone's looking for extra cash. Years ago, this was much easier when everyone was, there's a lot of unemployment going on. People want like 2008, 2009. I started in 2012. So you had people who didn't have jobs or were coming out of college without jobs, and they wanted to, get some extra side money. So you just schedule your jobs Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They help or whatever days are meet your helper. So if you have a helper who's good for Wednesdays and Thursdays, then book your jobs for Wednesdays and Thursdays, and then have them do it. Eventually that helper becomes a person who can either train your next guy or starts adding more days in their schedule and becomes a full-time person. That's kind of how the process works. But for me, making that commitment to somebody that I'm going to hire them for a 40-hour-a-week role is really stressful. Like that's a tough thing to do. And like if I'm going to commit to you, like I'm going to commit. So you were saying like you have those 3 pieces of equipment worth hundreds of grand. I have like 10 people worth a couple hundred of grand that I have to make sure they have work coming in so that I make money, because I'm definitely an leader, eat last type dude. Like I will make sure they have money and they're paid before I put any money in my pocket ever. So, but start part-time, hire someone part-time, and then you roll into a full-time, and you get busy enough where you have to add another guy in, or like you get to the point where you're losing money doing the labor. So if I'm on the roof actually cleaning the roof and I missed 10 phone calls for people who want jobs done, then I just fell into that category. I'm losing money being on the roof. And Robert Kiyosaki, great book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I absolutely like loathe working for money. Like the fact of like trading my time for hours, I mentally, physically like can't do it. I'm like the worst worker in the world when it comes to that. But if you just said like, here's the internet and a phone, go work when you want to and like make calls and like, try to grow this into something, like then I love it. I'll work all the time.
I'm right there with you. I also hate other people telling me what to do or when to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not good at that. No.
So I love the fact that you dove straight into that, because that was exactly where I wanted to take it next, was just like, whenever you started your power washing business,
Yep.
you were the one on the roof in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then basically like what Dan just broke down, for everybody listening right now who is in that like solo owner operator phase,
Yep.
like he just gave you the playbook for how,
Yeah.
how do you sort of like
You
grow next? Like, what's the next
you
step?
find a brother, you find a brother or a friend, or somebody who's going to be a colleague. You might even have at your full-time job where you do this on the side. Um, a friend of mine who I helped start his own power washing business. That's what he did. He took our friend who was also his colleague and was like, hey, like, he wants to make some extra money on the side. Everyone wants to make extra money on the side. I've never met a person who doesn't want to make more money. So you just find that person, fill it into your schedule. He was a school teacher, so he started his jobs at 3 p.m. So when someone would call, and ask to get set up on his schedule, he'd say, our first spot opens 3 p.m. They don't know that he was teaching all day. They're like, okay, great, put me at 3. So he'd show up at 3 o'clock with his buddy, and they would clean the roof or wash the house from 3 to 5 p.m. And that was their first job. And then he got to the point where Monday through Friday was filled. Saturday was then filled because Saturday's the easier day to find extra help because people are off. So scheduling people for Saturday, and now it's 9 a.m. He's sitting in school. His phone's ringing. He can't answer it because he's teaching. And he's like, I need to quit my teaching job because I'm losing money being a teacher. And that's exactly what happened. So that's how you do it. I had a helper for my first year, and then I had actually, I love this strategy too, is plan a vacation. And you're not allowed to close. Like when people have a vacation, they close their business. I'm like, that's not acceptable in my opinion. Because your customer's going to go somewhere else. It was, I think it was my second year actually. And I knew my family was planning a trip to Hawaii. This is when I was younger. So I was going with my parents and my brothers and sisters. And I was like, oh shit, like I have 2 guys now working for me full time. Like they're counting on me. I can't just close and tell them, sorry, you're not getting paid this week. Cause what are they going to do? They're going to get jobs elsewhere. So I'm like, all right, I got to figure this out. So I had 2 guys. The one guy was with me last year, so he knew what he was doing already. The other guy got trained by him. So now I had 2 guys who knew what they were doing. I went to Hawaii. And because of the time difference, it's like 5 a.m. in Hawaii. I was awake, and the phone started ringing in Pennsylvania, and I was answering phone calls and scheduling jobs out and making sure they were good to go. And they ended up doing I think it was like $6,600 worth of work that week while I was in Hawaii. And like it was a moment like I'll never forget. I'm like, I just got paid more to be in Hawaii than like I would have, it like blew my mind. And it was really no sweat off my back because all I had to do was answer the phone. While it was still dark in Hawaii, because of the time change, I was still awake, so it wasn't a big deal. But the next week, we still had work to do because of me answering the phone. And yeah, I mean, I was like, where can you do that? Where can you go on vacation, make more money? And that's systems which come into play later on with employees.
I'm over here laughing because I remember having that first like epiphany moment too, whenever I actually like put my ego aside to get out of the machine, because I love operating. But once I like paid somebody who's really good at their craft to do it, I'm like, holy crap, we are so much more efficient on this. And now all I got to do is go line up the jobs and just stay in front of them. So that's why I'm laughing over here, because
I mean, so
moment.
You say you love operating, and that's great. Like you all operate, and I think I do too. It's just disguised as business ownership. I'm operating this business, even though I don't want to admit that. Like, yes, I can take some time off, but as far as the commercial stuff goes, like residential, no, I don't operate whatsoever. Like I can't name you one residential customer we serviced last year, which is really cool. I have no idea. But commercial wise, I like operating it. I like growing it. I like pursuing more accounts. I like breaking into new states. We're in Pennsylvania. I was in Ohio, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland last year, however many that states that was, and like doing power washing. So like that was really fun for us. But I'm like, okay, I have he's a great dude on Twitter, St. Louis Chris. He just posted there's a conference in Florida. I'm like, okay, I'm going. So there's a conference in Florida in March, and my goal is to meet somebody in like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, because with the seasonality of power washing, right now I look at like I'll have a month where we'll put 300 grand in the bank, right? Like June. And then I have a month like January who I'm like negative $30,000 because I have no one working. There's nothing going on. February, negative $30,000. Just my overhead, my the insurances, like all that stuff. Like just call it is what it is. So I'm a negative 60 from 0 to February 31st or February 31st to March 31st because we don't know if March is it early spring, are we getting a 20-inch snowstorm? We have no idea, and that's when honestly most power washing businesses go out of business, is that January, February, March timeframe, because you're not making any money, all expenses. So if I can go down south to this conference, meet some other people who have businesses in that I could help service, like kind of work with, I could add in another $50,000 a month in February or January that we can do work down south. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to be getting to the top of the hour here, and maybe we'll have to do version 2 here and bring you back on and dive deeper into this. That was going to be one of my questions, is just how do you manage the seasonality of the power wash business? And so I think you just answered it right there where you're going, but how have you done it in the past? Do you keep your people on full time?
No. So how do we do it? We tell people they're teachers in reverse, and they're like, oh, okay, makes sense. So our technicians might make 60 to 80 grand depending on their role, and they get 2 months off, and they're like, this is great. So they get, which is actually, they're like, it's better than teaching. I get the winter time off, so they're like, okay, I'll go somewhere, vacation in January or February. So that's typically how we would handle it. Just like it's about like perspective. It's like, no, you're not unemployed. You're just a teacher. You're off because we know teachers are coming back in September. We know, March 15th, we're back and rolling again.
Okay, last 5 minutes here.
Yep.
Give us the quick down and dirty on if somebody wants to start a pressure washing business. What's the bare minimum you need?
Bare minimum. I love this question because everyone would say power washer and whatever piece of shit equipment they're about to buy. And I'm going to tell you the exact opposite. I'm going to tell you, don't buy a power washer, buy a yard sign and buy flyers and put them out. And if someone calls you, go do an estimate. If they say yes to your estimate, then go buy your power washer. Do it reverse. Like, don't buy a power washer then hope to get jobs. Buy marketing material. We even talked once about marketing. Marketing is actually my favorite thing because it's about humans and how they interact and how they like do, why they make decisions and stuff like that. And so yes, before I bought a hot water power washer, I went out and sold a couple $1,000s worth of jobs, and then I lined them up, and my power washer was paid for it in the first 2 weeks I had it. It made life a whole lot less stressful, but that's how you start a power washing business, and any business. That's why this answer is universal. I technically can take, if you're not sure what you want to do, if you want to be power washing, you want to be a painter, go buy yard signs and phone numbers or whatever for all of these and flyers, and then put them out. But it's got to be professionally designed. You can't have a shit flyer. No one's going to call you. No one's going to respect you. And they're not going to give you like the high dollar that you deserve as a service business owner.
I love it. Pre-sell before. Dan, you just gave us the masterclass on how to start that. Can you pronounce your last name, please?
Cronauer. Yep, Cronauer.
Okay. So everybody, Daniel Cronauer here on the podcast. Thank you guys for listening so much. Dan, thanks so much for being on the show. We are definitely going to have to do a round 2 of this because I want to dive into pressure washing. I want to dive into marketing because you and I both get very excited about marketing. And I think we could do a whole hour-long podcast specifically on marketing if we wanted to.
It's the most important part.
For starting, absolutely. Yeah. And continuing.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know what you're saying. Continuing, like you're how well you did the job, carries you forward, after that. But especially for starting out, you have to market.
Well, and then to dive back into what we were talking about earlier, like if you're in this service business where it's like one-off jobs, you have to continue to drive leads.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
important.
Yeah, that 100%. And that's most services businesses, unfortunately, do have that one-off nature. Which makes it really tough, as you have a bunch of equipment sitting outside. You're like, oh shit, that didn't start up today. Well, that's a zero in the book.
But it challenges you to get creative and go figure out ways to sell more jobs and find new leads. And so we'll dive into that on the next
Okay,
episode.
yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being on, and thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Owner Operator Podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below and let us know if you have somebody who you'd like to recommend being on here. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please like, follow, and just like service businesses, 5-star reviews are super important for podcasts as well. So we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review if you're listening and enjoying these episodes. Without further ado, we'll wrap this one up and we'll see you guys in the next episode.